You have been systematically indoctrinated into a civilization that views silence not as a sanctuary for the soul, but as a direct threat to its economic and social structure. From the very moment your consciousness began to interact with the societal matrix around you, you were fed a lie. A persistent, insidious, and deeply engaging falsehood that suggests the absence of physical activity is a defect in your character. You were taught through school, through media, and through the anxiety of your own parents that boredom is a problem to be solved, a symptom of extreme laziness, a sign of dangerous stagnation, or an enemy of your productivity that must be annihilated with constant distraction. You look at the empty spaces in your day, those gray moments where the momentum slows and the noise fades, and you feel a rising panic in your chest, convinced that if you are not moving, if you are not producing, you are dying. But let us shatter this illusion right now. What if the sensation you have spent your entire life running from is not an emptiness, but a specific, high-level frequency? What if boredom was not the absence of something, but the presence of something deeper, something just out of reach, not yet formed, but forming in the invisible realms? Consider the radical possibility that the stagnation you feel, that heavy, restless, agitated stillness that makes your skin crawl, is not a void to be filled with noise, but a sacred threshold to be crossed with intention. There is a specific, terrifying millisecond just before a massive quantum shift happens, when the entire system goes eerily silent. It is the calm before the tsunami. The music of your life stops. The inspiration that used to fuel you evaporates into thin air. The external world turns into static gray noise, losing its flavor and its pull. In this state, you feel paralyzed. You feel like you are sinking into quicksand, unable to move forward, unable to go back, trapped in a meaningless loop. But you are not stuck. You are buffering. You are standing in the womb of the universe, waiting for the download to complete. This is the cosmic inhale before the massive exhale of a new reality. The paradox that the matrix hides from you is simple but profound. The quieter your physical reality becomes, the louder your energetic field grows. When you strip away the distractions, the noise, and the constant movement, you are left with pure potential. But because you are terrified of this space, because you have been trained to equate silence with non-existence, you try to fill it. You scroll through infinite feeds of other people's lives. You seek cheap dopamine hits. You try to escape the very chamber where your new destiny is being constructed. Stop running. The silence is not empty. It is full. It is charged. It is the raw material of God consciousness waiting for your command. This feeling of being stuck is actually a protective mechanism. The universe has placed you in a holding pattern because your old identity is too dense to enter the new timeline. You're being stripped of your momentum so that you can change direction. If you were to continue moving at your current speed, you would simply recreate the past. The boredom is the brakes. It is the universe saying, halt. We are recalibrating the coordinates. But because you do not understand the language of energy, you interpret this pause as failure. You interpret the silence as abandonment. You think nothing is happening, when in fact, the most significant restructuring of your lifetime is occurring right beneath the surface of your awareness. You must learn to respect the pause. You must learn to honor the void. Let's go deeper into this paradox, because understanding it is the key to your liberation. The less stimulation you have, the more space there is for potential to expand. We must aggressively deconstruct the belief system that keeps you trapped in the cycle of endless, meaningless doing. You operate under the assumption that for transformation to occur, there must be visible, tangible evidence of effort. You believe you must be acting, achieving, visualizing, sweating, or forcing your will upon the world to manifest change. You have been told that stillness is regression, that if you stop swimming, you will drown. But the quantum field, the invisible engine that drives all of material reality, does not operate on human logic or surface-level timelines. It does not care about your hustle. It unfolds in unseen dimensions, activated not by movement but by alignment. Visualize a seed buried deep within the dark, dense, heavy earth. To the untrained eye, standing on the surface, looking down at the dirt, it appears that absolutely nothing is happening. It looks like death. It looks like a grave. There is no movement, no light, no sound. But in the pitch black, a violent and miraculous process is underway. The outer shell of the seed, which protected it but also confined it, is cracking under the pressure of the soil. Genetic codes that have been dormant for eons are unlocking. Roots are thrusting downward into the unknown, gathering energy, drinking from the dark, preparing to breach the surface. All of this happens in the darkness. All of this happens in the stillness. Boredom is that sacred soil for your consciousness. It is the unglamorous, uncomfortable, and often excruciating space between identities. You are no longer the person who was satisfied with the old life. That version of you has died or is dying, but you have not yet inhabited the body of the person who lives the new life. You are suspended in the void between timelines. You are a ghost in your own machine, and this space is terrifying to the unawakened mind. Why? Because your ego has no footing here. The ego relies on labels. I am a doctor, I am a mother, tasks, I need to send this email, and external validation to know it exists. In the boredom, there are no applause, no deadlines, no distractions to reflect the ego back to itself. There is only you and the infinite field. This is where most people run. This is where the addict reaches for the bottle, where the worker reaches for the email, where the dreamer reaches for the phone. They cannot handle the confrontation with their own essence, but you are here because you are ready to stay. You are ready to understand that the pressure you feel is not the pressure of the walls closing in. It is the pressure of your own expansion pushing out. You are the seed, and the boredom is the dirt. You must stop trying to dig yourself up to see if you are growing. You must trust the dark. You must trust the process of incubation, because without this period of underground silence, there can be no above-ground bloom. In this cavernous space of absolute nothingness, where the external world has retreated and the internal noise has amplified, you are faced with a terrifying reality. There are no labels, no tasks, and no noise to tell you who you are. There is only you and the infinite unresponsive field. This is the precise moment where the average human spirit breaks. This is where most people run, screaming internally, back to the safety of their chains. They cannot handle the confrontation with their own formlessness, so they seek an immediate anesthetic. They seek dopamine, they seek validation, they watch another manifestation video, or they hunt for another how-to guide that promises a quick fix. But that very escape, that desperate clawing for a distraction, is the exact mechanism that delays the quantum shift you have been praying for. You are acting like a patient who rips out their IV drip because the medicine feels uncomfortable, only to wonder why the cure is not taking effect. You are trading the infinite potential of the void for the cheap, fleeting comfort of a digital distraction. Now, we must illuminate the incomplete puzzle piece that no guru has dared to explain to you. It is not that your desires are not manifesting. It is not that the universe is deaf to your requests, or that you are broken, or that your karma is blocking you. It is simply that you have not yet become still enough to receive the transmission. You are trying to download a massive file onto a hard drive that is spinning so fast it cannot write the data. The quantum field does not respond to frantic, desperate effort. It does not respond to the energy of chasing, because chasing implies that the object of your desire is running away from you. The field responds to coherence. It responds to attunement. It responds to a stillness so profound that your energetic signature becomes a fixed point in a chaotic universe. And nothing, absolutely nothing, attunes you more completely to this frequency of reception than the aching, grinding silence of boredom, where all the old programs scream for attention and you make the conscious, sovereign choice not to react. That is the real test of the initiate. It is not about how well you can visualize a Ferrari while listening to meditation music. It is about whether you can sit in an empty room, feel the agonizing urge to do something to validate your existence, and choose instead to remain the observer. The unawakened mind reacts to the silence by filling it with noise. The awakened mind uses the silence to listen to the future. Let us leave the realm of metaphor and pull in the hard laws of quantum mechanics, because the universe does not just hope you figure this out. It is structurally built to reflect your internal state back to you with mathematical precision. Consider the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. In the subatomic world, we know that the more precisely we try to observe the motion of a particle, the less we can know about its position. The act of observation is not passive. It is aggressive. It affects the reality being observed. When you are hyper-vigilant about your life, when you are constantly checking for results, looking for movement, and judging the boredom as a sign that things are not working, you are collapsing the wave function into a state of stagnation. You are observing the lack of movement, and by quantum law, you are freezing that lack in place. But what happens in the space where there is no movement to observe? What exists in the vacuum of deep boredom where you withdraw your desperate attention from the how and the when? What exists in the absence of doing is pure, undisturbed potential. That is where the magic begins. When you stop poking and prodding at reality with your anxiety, you allow it to return to a state of superposition where all possibilities exist simultaneously. You enter the 0-point field, the womb of creation where energy rearranges itself into matter. However, you have been programmed to view this sacred state as a threat. Society has trained you since you were a malleable child in a classroom to fear this space. Since childhood, stillness has been associated with laziness, with failure, with social disconnection. The programming runs deep in your subconscious mind. If I am not doing something, I am falling behind. If I am not productive, I am worthless. But this is the single biggest illusion of the third-dimensional mindset. It is a control mechanism designed to keep you laboring for the matrix rather than creating your own reality. The truth is the inverse. When you are truly bored, not distracted, not numbing, but consciously, painfully still, you are closer to source energy than at any other time in your life. You are standing at the event horizon of your next timeline. You are not falling behind. You are transcending the race entirely. Let us violently interrupt the pattern of your daily existence for a moment. I want you to conduct a forensic audit of your own life. When was the last time, the absolute, definitive last time, you sat in complete, unadulterated silence? I do not mean sitting on the couch reading a book. I do not mean driving with a podcast playing, and I certainly do not mean scrolling through social media while the television is off. I mean absolute zero. No phone, no music, no external input, just you and the crushing, revealing weight of your own existence. I am asking you to recall a moment where you allowed silence not as an accidental side effect of having nothing to do, but as a deliberate, sacred doorway to something deeper. The statistical truth is terrifying. Most modern humans cannot even last 3 minutes in this state without reaching for a device. Why? Because in that vacuum, in that terrifying absence of noise, the buffer zone dissolves. They begin to feel everything they have been frantically avoiding: the grief, the fear, the inadequacy. But they also, and this is the secret the Matrix keeps from you, begin to feel everything they are becoming. The silence acts as a hyperbaric pressure chamber. It forces the internal contents of your psyche to the surface. It strips away the costumes you wear for the world and leaves you naked before the quantum field. Now, here is the curiosity gap we are about to explore in this transmission. You treat this rising discomfort as a signal to flee, as a symptom of anxiety that must be medicated with distraction. But what if the very feeling you have been trying to get rid of, that restless, itchy, uncomfortable stillness, is the exact signal that you are transitioning into a new frequency? You are misinterpreting the data. You think the agitation is a sign that something is wrong, but in the language of energy, it is the sign that the old program is being uninstalled. You are standing in the loading zone of a new reality, and the friction you feel is the friction of re-entry. You are not breaking down, you are breaking through, but you must hold your ground. You must sit in the chair. You must stare at the wall until the wall dissolves and reveals the infinite code behind it. What if the boredom you despise is actually the bridge to the paradise you seek? Let us turn to the great mystic Neville Goddard, who famously declared, "Creation is finished." This is not just poetic philosophy, it is a statement of quantum fact. It means that your desired reality, the wealth, the love, the health, the freedom, is not something you have to build from scratch with blood, sweat, and tears. It already exists. It is floating in the quantum field as a fully formed possibility, waiting for an observer to collapse it into matter. It is not created through effort. It is selected through awareness. But here is the catch. You cannot select a new station if your internal radio is jammed with the static of the old station. Awareness requires stillness. It requires presence. And true presence for the uninitiated often begins with the agonizing sensation of boredom. Boredom isn't the end of something, it is the beginning. It is the cleaning of the lens. The universe does not rush. The quantum field does not hustle. The galaxies do not grind. They move in a state of majestic, effortless flow. The most powerful changes in geology, in biology, and in consciousness happen underground, unnoticed, in the dark, until suddenly the shift becomes visible and the world calls it miraculous. But you will know the truth. You will know it wasn't a miracle. It was a mechanism. You will know it happened because you waited. You stayed. You didn't run from the stillness. You let yourself be bored, and in doing so, you became available to the quantum shift. You stopped broadcasting the noisy signal of seeking and started broadcasting the magnetic signal of receiving. You moved from the active energy of the hunter to the gravitational energy of the attractor. You allowed the timeline to come to you, but that is not the real reason you need to stay with the silence. That is just the surface level benefit. There is a deeper, far more critical mechanism at play here, something that both advanced quantum physics and cutting-edge neuroscience finally agree on. In this chapter, we will reveal exactly how your brain, your energetic field, and your very identity begin to physically reorganize themselves, the precise moment you stop chasing the world and start tuning into yourself. Stay with this. The nothingness is speaking to you. There is a specific elusive moment in deep meditation, right after the breath slows down and the frantic thoughts begin to soften, where you feel suspended like a diver floating in the abyss. It feels as if the body is there, heavy and anchored, but you are not. It is a strange, liminal, in-between sensation, a twilight zone where you are neither fully asleep nor fully awake. You are not actively thinking, but you are certainly not unconscious. You are just deeply, profoundly still. And in that sacred stillness, something extraordinary happens. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, and there are no fireworks, but it is undeniable. A shift occurs, a subtle reconfiguration of the self. This is not a spiritual fantasy or a new age metaphor. It is measurable neurologically, energetically, and quantum mechanically. Let us begin with the hardware, your brain. Neuroscientists have identified a specific massive network in the brain called the default mode network, DMN. This is a complex web of interacting brain regions that lights up and activates not when we are focused, not when we are active, and not when we are working, but strictly when we are at rest. Paradoxically, it is when you are doing absolutely nothing that the brain's most complex inner processing begins. It is in this state that the brain begins integrating long-term memories, accessing deep, non-linear intuition, and resolving emotional patterns that the conscious mind is too busy and too defensive to touch. The default mode network is the bridge between who you have been and who you are becoming. It is the backstage crew of your transformation, setting the stage for the next act while the curtain is down. And what activates this critical system? Not stimulation, not consumption, not another video, but stillness, silence, and the exact state that boredom invites. By avoiding boredom, you are literally preventing your brain from upgrading its operating system. Let us go deeper beyond the biology, because your field, the quantum field, is even more sensitive and responsive than your brain. When you are mentally and physically running around, reacting to every notification and every thought, your vibrational signature is chaotic. It looks like a seismograph during an earthquake, jagged, erratic, and unpredictable. Imagine a lake during a violent storm. The water is choppy, the reflection is distorted, and the sediment from the bottom is churned up, clouding everything. This is your field when you are busy. But when you enter the stillness, when you embrace the boredom, the wind dies down, the lake settles, the static clears, clarity emerges from the murky waters. Your frequency becomes readable to the quantum field. Here is where the hard physics enters the equation. According to the principles of quantum mechanics, particles exist in a state of superposition, meaning they hold multiple potential states simultaneously. They are everything and nothing at once, until they are observed. It is the act of conscious observation that collapses the wave function, forcing the particle to abandon its potential and assume a specific state, which we call reality. But this collapse does not require force, grit, or hustle. It requires coherence. It requires alignment. It requires presence. Now consider this deeply. What happens when your energy is incoherent, scattered across distractions, desires, doubts, past regrets, and future anxieties. The field cannot respond clearly because your signal is not stable. You are broadcasting noise. But when you are still, when your mind stops grasping for the next moment and your body stops reacting to the last moment, the field can finally feel you. The infinite potentials swirling around you begin to organize. Reality starts to crystallize around your dominant frequency, and that frequency gets calibrated not in the heat of action, but in the cool silence of stillness. You are becoming a superconductor for a new timeline, but only if you can endure the silence required to tune the instrument. We must violently interrupt the pattern of your logic right here, because a very loud, very persistent voice in the back of your head is likely screaming, "But if I don't take massive action, how will anything actually change?" That voice is not your intuition. It is not your higher self. That is an old, outdated software program running in the background of your subconscious mind. That is the Newtonian mindset of cause and effect, the industrial age belief that you must physically push matter to move matter, that effort is directly proportional to outcome. In the dense physical world of heavy objects, yes, you must push, but you are not trying to move furniture. You are trying to move timelines, and quantum reality is not linear. It is vibrational. The quantum field operates not on the principle of force, but on the principle of resonance. Resonance is achieved not when you are running around frantically trying to force doors open, but when your inner world stops reacting to the chaos of the outer world and instead becomes a stable, unshakable field of intention. This is where stillness graduates from being a passive, lazy activity to becoming a hard, precise science. Stillness is not an action. It is intentional, calculated, non-reactive. It is the mastery of becoming a clean, static-free signal in a world drowning in noise. Consider the physiology of this state, because your biology is the antenna. When you embrace boredom and settle into the silence, your nervous system shifts out of the sympathetic fight or flight mode, the mode of survival, stress, and contraction, and into the parasympathetic state, the only state where biological and energetic healing occurs. Your heart enters a state of coherence, where its electromagnetic field expands by feet, creating a measurable sphere of influence around you. Your brain waves slow down from high beta stress states into alpha and theta, the precise frequencies where neuroplasticity accelerates and you can reprogram your subconscious mind. These are measurable states. Dr. Joe Dispenza has shown them in brain scans. The HeartMath Institute has tracked them in cardiac patterns. They are not theoretical. They are physiological portals to a new identity. You are not just sitting there. You are actively tuning your biological instrument to interface with a higher dimension. So, if stillness is the key to the kingdom, why is it so agonizingly hard to do? Why does boredom feel like torture? Because boredom is the ego's withdrawal symptoms. It is the psychological and chemical detox that occurs when your mind is no longer overstimulated by the matrix. Your body has become addicted to the hormones of stress, to cortisol, to adrenaline, to the cheap dopamine hits of social media and constant doing. You are physiologically addicted to the rush of urgency. When you stop the noise, you cut off the supply. The discomfort you feel, the crawling sensation in your skin, the urge to check your phone, the sudden anxiety, the feeling that you are wasting your life is not because nothing is happening. It is because your identity is dissolving. Your dopamine pathways are rewiring. Your survival programs are losing their grip on your consciousness. And beneath that clamor, beneath the screaming of the addict, something magnificent is trying to form. You are retuning to a new frequency, but the transition feels like death to the parts of you that vibrate at the lower frequency. Most people abort the process right here. They feel the burn of the detox and they panic. They pick up the phone, they chase a task, they turn on the TV. They return to the known hell because the unknown heaven feels unbearable until it becomes familiar. You must use a pattern interrupt. You must realize that the pain of boredom is actually the sensation of your chains breaking. The people you admire, the quantum lepers, the ones who seem to manifest effortlessly and collapse timelines overnight, are not doing more than you. They have simply trained themselves to sit in the fire of the nothing until the new self emerges. They have learned to be with the nothing until the signal clears. They don't chase the future, they meet it in the silence. There is a specific term in quantum theory that you need to burn into your vocabulary: decoherence. It refers to the breakdown of quantum potential due to environmental interference. In the laboratory, if a quantum system is isolated, it maintains its infinite potential. It can be anything. But the moment it interacts with the noisy environment, the moment it is jostled by heat, light, or radiation, that potential collapses and the magic is lost. Translation for your life: the more distractions you allow into your field, the less potential you hold. The more you interact with the noise of the matrix, the less power you have to shape reality. The more stillness you cultivate, the more clarity and power you accumulate. You do not create your future by efforting or by adding more variables to the equation. You allow it by removing the noise. And here is the curiosity loop we are about to deepen, the concept that flips the script on your suffering. Boredom isn't just a phase to endure like a punishment. It is a vibrational recalibration system. It is a biological and energetic mechanism designed to strip you of the interference patterns that are causing your decoherence. The longer you can stay with it, not numbed by a substance, not escaped through a screen, but fully, agonizingly aware, the more powerful your field becomes. You begin to embody a state known as vibrational neutrality. This is the holy grail of manifestation. It is a state where you are no longer reacting to the old narrative, no longer triggered by the lack of results, and therefore, you are wide open to the new frequency. In the next chapter of your understanding, you must grasp why neutrality, not the manic, high vibes, or the desperate excitement you see on Instagram, is actually the most magnetic state in the universe. We are conditioned to think we need to be jumping for joy to attract what we want, but joy is a peak, and peaks are followed by valleys. Neutrality is a plateau. Neutrality is sustainable. Why does boredom, when surrendered to, become a gateway instead of an enemy? Because it stops the leak of your energy. Once you understand this, you will never rush out of stillness again. You will protect it like a fortress. You will worship it because you will know what it is really doing. It is sealing your container so that you can hold the charge of your new destiny. There is a precise moment in the quantum field where everything becomes available to you. It does not happen because you have finally raised your vibration high enough or because you have visualized with enough cinematic intensity. It happens because you have reached a point of perfect neutrality. A frequency so still, so surrendered, so devoid of the desperate need for an outcome that your resistance dissolves entirely. In that space, you are not pushing against the old reality, nor are you grasping for the new one. You simply are. And in that beingness, the universe moves. Most modern teachings about manifestation focus on intensity. Visualize harder, feel deeper, scream your affirmations in the mirror, raise your vibration higher, but they miss a fundamental truth about physics. It is not intensity that shifts timelines, it is availability, and availability is only accessed in neutrality. If you are intense, you are full of yourself, full of your own will, your own effort, your own noise. There is no room for the new. Now here is where boredom becomes the most misunderstood and most powerful frequency you can embody. When you are truly bored, your nervous system is no longer being hijacked by the dualities of pleasure or pain. You are not reacting to a dopamine hit, and you are not reacting to a cortisol spike. You are not chasing a future, and you are not running from a past. You are not trying to change what is because you have ceased to judge it. You are simply present, and that presence, though uncomfortable to the ego which thrives on drama, is the signal the field has been waiting for. It is the silence between songs, the stillness between waves, the pause between heartbeats where the new timeline enters. This goes deeper than just feeling calm. We are talking about vibrational neutrality, a state where your emotional pendulum stops swinging wildly between doubt and desire, between fear and hope, between resistance and urgency. As long as you are swinging, you are creating interference. You are creating a push-pull dynamic with the universe. But in the boredom, the pendulum stops. This is the space where reality bends because you are no longer creating from fragmentation, but from wholeness. You are no longer signaling, "I lack this." You are signaling I am. Let us bring in the heavy artillery of quantum science to anchor this spiritual truth in undeniable reality. According to Dr. Amit Goswami, a theoretical quantum physicist and the pioneer of the principle that consciousness causes collapse, the observer is not just a passive bystander in the universe. The observer is the central engine of reality. The fundamental law is this: a quantum event, the shift from possibility to actuality, cannot occur without a conscious observer who is present, coherent, and aware. But here is the critical nuance that most superficial law of attraction teachings completely miss, and it is the reason you are still stuck. The quality of that observation dictates the quality of the manifestation. The universe is not just listening to what you want, it is listening to how you are looking at what you want. If you observe your reality from a place of emotional turbulence, desperation, or fear, looking for what is missing, the signal you send to the field is garbled. It is full of static, interference, and noise. You are collapsing the wave function, yes, but you are collapsing it into a distorted, chaotic pattern that mirrors your internal state. But if you observe from neutrality, if you witness your life with presence, without grasping, without needing it to be different right this second, you create a pristine, sterile environment for the wave function to collapse in alignment with your highest potential. That is the master key code. Neutrality clears the distortion. Think about the famous observer effect in physics. The moment a conscious observer looks at a quantum particle, it behaves differently. It stops acting like a wave of infinite potential and snaps into a fixed position of reality. But what does that mean for your Tuesday afternoon when you're bored and anxious? It means your reality is not shaped by what you do with your hands, but by how you witness it with your consciousness. When you watch your life unfold, not with judgment, "This is bad, I am failing," not with craving, "I need more money," but with quiet, bored, steady presence, the quantum field responds in kind. It does not respond because you are commanding it with your ego, but because you have finally become congruent with the possibility you desire. You are no longer vibrating at the frequency of wanting, which affirms separation. You are vibrating at the frequency of being, which affirms unity. Let us create a visceral metaphor to visualize this mechanism so you never forget it. Imagine your reality, your mind, your field, your life is a vast, deep lake. Every thought you think, every desperate emotion you feel, every frantic action you take to fix your life is a heavy rock thrown into that lake. When you are anxious, when you are hustling out of fear, when you are trying to control the outcome, you are standing on the shore, pelting the surface with stones. The water churns, the waves crash, the ripples collide and distort everything. The sediment from the bottom rises up, clouding the water. You cannot see beneath the surface. You cannot see the treasure, the path, or the truth because of the chaos you have personally created with your effort. But when you become still, when you embrace the boredom and neutralize your vibration, you stop throwing rocks. You step back from the shoreline. The lake calms, the ripples fade into nothingness. The sediment sinks back to the bottom. The surface becomes like a sheet of glass, and in that stillness, absolute clarity emerges. Possibilities that were always there, submerged and hidden by your restlessness, suddenly come into view. That is when you collapse a new reality, not through noise but through still attention. Let's pause here for a massive pattern interrupt. Can you remember a specific moment in your life when you completely, utterly stopped caring whether something happened, and then, almost instantly, it did? When you released the obsession, dropped the attachment, shrugged your shoulders, and suddenly, effortlessly, the text came. The money arrived, the opportunity knocked. That wasn't a coincidence, that was not luck, that was neutrality in action. You stopped resisting what was, you stopped creating interference waves. You stopped clinging to what could be, and in that vacuum of resistance, in that glorious stillness, reality rearranged itself to match your desire. Boredom is your training ground for that state. It is the field's way of stripping you of attachments, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Every time you feel the urge to fix, chase, or control, and instead choose to breathe and do nothing, you are collapsing an old reality. We are now going to operationalize this entire philosophy. We are moving from intellectual understanding to visceral embodiment. You need a protocol. You need a way to physically and energetically bypass the resistance of your own mind. This is the quantum boredom ritual, a specific, repeatable, and deeply powerful process designed to dissolve the old self and encode the new reality directly into your nervous system. This is not a meditation to relax. This is a procedure to shift. Step 1. Create the quantum container. You need to carve out a physical space in your reality that is a no-fly zone for the matrix. It does not have to be a sacred temple or a perfect room. It just needs to be hermetically sealed from interruption. Turn off the noise. I mean all of it. No phone, no background lo-fi beats, no tasks waiting in your peripheral vision. You are not here to do anything. You are here to be. Sit comfortably, but not so comfortably that you fall asleep. You want a state of high alert relaxation, spine straight, dignity in your posture, eyes closed or gently focused on a single point in the darkness. You are establishing a perimeter. Step 2. Become the bored observer. Here is the paradox that will break your brain open. Your only task is to do absolutely nothing and observe everything. As you sit there, the boredom will rise like a tide. It will feel thick, heavy, irritating, and pointless. Do not resist it. Do not try to make it spiritual. Watch it like a dark cloud passing through a clear sky. Notice the thoughts that try to hook you and pull you out of the chair. This is a waste of time. I should be answering that email. Why am I not having a vision? Let them pass. Do not follow them down the rabbit hole. Your only job is to witness the urge to escape and stay anyway. In this moment, you are practicing vibrational neutrality. You are proving to the field that you are no longer a slave to stimulation. Step 3. Drop the identity loop. Every time you get bored, your identity, the ego, starts to panic. It screams, "Let me back in. I need to be relevant." It wants to scroll, fix, act, or worry, because if it is not doing, it feels like it is dying. And it is right. The ritual of boredom is the death of the old self. Sit with that discomfort. Let the ego throw its tantrum. Observe it gently, lovingly, like a parent watching a child throw a fit in a supermarket aisle. You do not leave the child, but you do not give them the candy. You witness the tantrum with compassion, but you stay seated in your power. In this stillness, you are breaking the neural patterns of the past. You are starving the old neural networks of the energy they need to survive. Step 4. Tune to the field, not the mind. Thoughts will continue to come. Some will be old fears, others will be disguised as divine inspiration, telling you to go write something down. Ignore them. You are not here to think, you are here to tune. Shift your awareness from the processing center of your head to the rhythmic center of your heart. Then, expand that awareness beyond your body, into the space of the room, into the silence itself. Merge with the blackness behind your eyes. This is the moment where people get discouraged because it feels like nothing is happening. Pattern interrupt. The moment you feel nothing is happening is the moment everything is happening. The field reveals itself through presence, not sensation. Stay in the void. Step 5. Anchor the shift. After 10 to 20 minutes, or however long your nervous system can endure the pressure of the void, do not just jump up and rush back to your phone to check what you missed. That creates a leak in the container. You must seal the state. End the ritual with a deliberate recalibration. Whisper softly to yourself or speak it internally with the authority of a creator. I am now tuned to the stillness where all things begin. Let that sentence carry the vibration of absolute truth. You are not trying to convince yourself. You are stating a biological fact. You are becoming it. Let us bring this home with one final concept. In the physicist David Bohm's interpretation of quantum reality, he speaks of the implicate order, a hidden, deeper layer of the universe where all information is stored in potential, unfolded. What we see as physical reality, the chairs, the cars, the bank accounts, is merely the Explicate order, the projection of that deeper, invisible layer. Your ritual of stillness takes you out of the explicate and places you directly into the implicate order. You become sensitive to the whisper beneath the noise. You are rewriting the code at the source level, so the projection must change. Boredom is not a failure of the system. It is not a punishment for being lazy. It is a feature of the shift. It is the bridge between your effort and your embodiment. It is where the noise clears and the new identity can emerge without interference. You are not here to feel better in the short term. You are here to become still enough to receive what is already done. The shift is already unfolding. All you have to do is stop resisting the silence. This is the final truth most people never discover. Boredom is not the absence of creation. It is pre-creation. It is the sacred womb of the quantum field where your next timeline is gestating, even when your senses cannot yet detect a heartbeat. So the next time the silence descends and you feel that itch, do not run. Worship the stillness. Protect it. Because in that silence, you are becoming the person who can hold the reality you have asked for. If you are finally ready to stop forcing and start receiving, if you are ready to expand your consciousness and step into your next quantum leap, then take action now. Subscribe to this channel to lock in this frequency. Leave a comment below declaring, "I am a calm observer of my becoming." This is your signature in the field, and share this message with someone who is ready to awaken from the illusion of busyness. The silence is not empty, it is coded. Welcome to your new timeline.